What is good, Cardano fam, ADA gang? We have lots of exciting updates to unpack today, so hit that subscribe, hit that like. Cardano ADA 24-hour trade volume surpasses $260 million according to CoinGecko. Circle's USDCx now surpasses $40.2 million in reserves on Cardano according to Cexplorer. ADA ETF assets under management is currently valued at $48.5 million, surpassing Dogecoin, TRON, Polkadot, and Uniswap, highlighting Cardano's institutional interest according to data from Blockworks. So this is down a couple $1,000,000 just since a few days ago, but still vastly more than TRON and Dogecoin, and this doesn't even include ADA spot ETFs in the US market, so a lot could change in the months ahead. Cardano's Ouroboros Leios advances closer to mainnet, with its improvement proposal now 100% complete. Progress is on track, with 81% on the technical specification and 82% progress on the 1000 TPS showcase. Input-output is targeting a mainnet hard fork by the end of this year. NVIDIA introduces the Open Secure AI Alliance, with industry leaders to develop new techniques and tools to safeguard software and agents, alongside the Linux Foundation, so they're one of the members, which they also just recently launched the official X402 Foundation, including members like Cardano Foundation. So it's great to have members that are associated with these big alliances, consortiums, because with X402, even though Cardano Foundation is an associate member, there's only 40 people that make up that list. So to see Linux Foundation in this list of, I think, 37 teams, I think is fantastic, which include NVIDIA as well. CryptoDotCom highlights ADA's development decentralization, says Cardano hands core development to external teams. Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson says executive function shall fix it all. Unity will come. So that tackles a lot, whether it's governance and executive function specialization, and as part of that also tackling a lot of KPIs, metrics for growth. So I agree with this. I think executive function is important and unification is extremely important. And these things do not conflict with decentralization. We can have both of them concurrently. Both can work simultaneously. Charles responds to Cardano directly interfacing with native USDC and USDT. He says LayerZero creates the rails. The Pentad can then negotiate an integration after. The bigger issue is growing the DeFi side so there will be meaningful issuance. So we could see more advanced integrations once we see LayerZero going live and have some very seamless flow routes to USDC and USDT. Lark Davis supports Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson, says, I want him to win. Now, yes, he has been hypercritical on our DeFi metrics and whatnot, but he still wants to see Charles win. He wants to see the success ultimately. Tim Warren says, I still hold ADA. Dan Gambardello highlights ADA's social dominance and network effect. He says Cardano is the most hated, but it is like the most searched, and they have a ton of holders. Tim says Cardano is the #1 blockchain to build voting and hospital records. If we were to build a ballot and people voted on the blockchain, I think ADA is the one with the right infrastructure for that. And I agree. I think that a lot of these critical infrastructure, I think Cardano can play a crucial role with a lot of the boring utility that's extremely important. And I think Tim puts it very well. He says, if we're putting elections on the blockchain, I need to know it's decentralized, no one can tamper with it. It's also secure, so no one can hack it. And we can trust it because it's verifiable by anybody. Cardano does that better than anyone else. I think it's put very well. Charles says when bad things happen, we need better mitigation systems to get money back to victims. So how do you prove you own things? We have Midnight Passport. You pair identity with a cryptocurrency, and then you can do selective disclosure for these things. Charles says wallets and bridges, they need insurance. If you have billions of people and trillions of interactions per year, at least one thing will break every year. It's bound to happen. You need some form of recovery system where once you've identified people, you can pay a policy out. Charles says crypto can become mainstream and unlock mass adoption only by harmonizing with financial systems with rule and law, checks and balances, and the ability to get restitution when bad things happen, right? The harmonization, as he puts it, Web 2.5, the bridge between Web 2 and Web 3. He says insurance products are in the trillions of dollars. How do we get more DeFi products into crypto with reliable, sustainable yield? Frontier insurance companies are thinking about these things. They're just waiting for privacy and legal elements. Charles says these next generation technologies allow us to get all the benefits of the legacy world, but keep the benefits that Satoshi gave us. So you're still in control of your wallet, your keys, and nobody has a God mode to get into your system. Charles says the biggest update from Cardano's Van Rossum hard fork is it added a lot of zero-knowledge infrastructure. So now we can verify Groth 16 proofs on Cardano, and it opened up the world for a lot of bridge capabilities and optimizations to be more interoperable. Often people think about folding ZK just privacy angle, but this could open up a lot in terms of interoperability and complement a lot of the integrations with LayerZero and beyond. Charles says, I was at Ethereum for 6 months, 12 years ago. I have more than 11 years of history with Cardano, now history with Midnight, history in synthetic biology and politics with the Stem Cell Freedom Act and medicine. Maybe, just maybe, we can talk about those things. So, this is regarding what's trending on X, the gentleman named Gareth. And so Charles ultimately is just, he's had enough of lazy journalism where all they do is ask about what happened 12 years ago at Ethereum, right? Because there's so much content that we can talk about, from Cardano to Midnight, synthetic biology, politics, post-quantum, the work with the clinic with Monument Hospital, and a lot more. But such individuals, really, they just make it hilarious. And in the words of Charles, it's just lazy journalism. I agree with that. And I think that the job of journalism in an interview is to find those interesting insights, something that has kind of been untapped, uncharted territory, right? Think of like a DJ also playing music you've never heard, that uncharted territory, and keeping the content fresh rather than just going, oh, what happened, with Vitalik and Ethereum. It's just this constant, repeated, cringe take by those journalists. And this gentleman, I guess, was part of Gareth, the one in the video. And you can check the full live stream. I was associated with Cointelegraph, and Cointelegraph, I'm just kind of paraphrasing from Charles, made a lot of pieces where they didn't retract statements or update statements when new information came to fruition, and at the same time not doing consultation on big claims before making them to the public. So just not a lot of great journalistic integrity. That's kind of the phrase I would use. Charles highlights the success of Lex Fridman, Joe Rogan, and Sean Ryan. He says the job of a journalist is to ask the questions that haven't been asked, to find the perspectives that haven't been seen, to bring to light new things and interesting things. And I 100% agree with that. He says the philosophy hasn't changed, the direction hasn't changed, and the goals, I would hope, have not changed. We still have wonderful technology to decentralize the world, and still have wonderful capabilities to take the world where it needs to go. Charles says, I'm not here to be liked or loved. I'm totally okay with being hated, the most unpopular person in the room, as long as I'm effective. Effective means we all win, that the things we build actually change the world for the better. I will continue to be here. So I really like that Charles kind of doubling down on his commitment to stick around, and I really like that. He says we have work to do with RealFi to bank the unbanked. We have work to do with Pogon to bring a DeFi layer that Bitcoin so badly needs. And we have work to do with Midnight to bring privacy to the masses. What about Cardano? He says we have a lot of unfinished business with Cardano. I'm still here. I'm still going to fight. And I'll be here year after year with that same determination. Charles says, to my cynics and critics, I'm so sorry that you have to endure me. And to the people who like me, thank you so much for your support. And do know it means a lot to me, especially in the hard times. Charles says, I still do believe our best days are ahead of us. And I still believe that we can succeed despite the demons that we've let in. We just have to change the approach, and we just have to change the strategy. And I think this statement really goes to the entire end-to-end solution, right? The political sphere, the crypto products, the meme coin casino, the lack of clarity and certainty with crypto legislation, but also when it comes to Cardano as well, right? Changing the strategy, venture products. That's why I'm excited for Pogan, Midnight, RealFi, and projects like this that solve real world problems and can bring value and utility. Charles on authenticity says, I'm not going to change who I am. If someone's lying, I'm going to call them a liar. If someone's full of BS, I'm going to say they're full of BS. And when a journalist is lazy, I'll call them out. And think of Charles what you will, but at the end of the day, he stands on business, and you got to respect that. What else is going on? Circle acquires nearly 1,000 blockchain patents from IBM, making it the largest holder of blockchain patents in the United States. The portfolio spans blockchain, banking, insurance, and cloud security. Interesting. Franklin Templeton, with nearly $1.8 trillion in assets under management, supports passing the Clarity Act, joining BlackRock, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, and Grayscale. Franklin Templeton actively operates Cardano node validators, and their Crypto Index ETF EZPZ also includes exposure to ADA. We also know that Grayscale, it's possible that the SEC will review that spot ADA ETF potentially. Maybe if we do see that, could be towards October, but we have to wait and see what Grayscale does, if they will continue with that. If it's still on the books, yes, Q4 could be massive for lots of ADA ETFs. Coinbase expects the Crypto Clarity Act vote as early as Monday, August 3rd. So let's wait until the following Monday to see any sort of updates. Now, what about, prediction odds? 38% chance that the Clarity Act will be signed into law in 2026 right now on Polymarket. The president says the interest rate should be lowered, but despite that, Citadel Securities and others expect that the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates this week in a surprise move. Jumping back to Polymarket, we can see we're sitting at around 70% chance, no change. So we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. We're in really tough times right now. It is rough. The sentiment on X is bikini bottom, rock bottom, void edition times 1,000. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of great ventures that are going on. Midnight team is very active. We can see the work with RealFi, with everything else that's going on. So I think that, yes, the price is down, but a lot of alts are hurting badly, not just Cardano. Right now, ADA at 15 cents, XRP at 1.05, and Bitcoin at 63.4. I think the highlight for me just goes to the incredible consistency from Charles. It surprises me how often he is streaming on YouTube, doing the interviews. I just finished clipping up this, which was maybe like 2 hours ago that he live streamed, and then he did another surprise AMA just literally like 1.5 hours ago. So he is here, he is persistent, he has relentless perseverance, and there are not many founders that have that intelligence, that charisma, and that commitment to stick around when times get tough. There are a lot of other top alts where founders just left. And, they shall not be named, but there's plenty of them. So let me know your thoughts, guys. I like that Charles doubles down to confirm that he will be here. He is building, and I'm really stoked for the future. I know the prices right now are very rough, but a lot can change just all of a sudden. And I think a lot of it is really hinging on the Clarity Act. But we're seeing a lot more TradFi projects come out of the bushes, support it more and more. It could just be a matter of time, and maybe it's just all theatrics and it's still going to be guaranteed approval. But during these theatrics, we're seeing a lot of institutional stockpiling and retail just kind of paper handsing out, where they will return when Bitcoin and alts make a comeback. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and I'll see you guys in the next Angry Crypto Show.